You yourself said that people will give them up until March, April before they pass a judgment and take a decision to move away from the country, move away from investments. I would assume they would look for the budget. Is the budget therefore likely to be seen as a do-or-die budget, make or break budget? If it has to be a make budget, what should it have?
No, it should be a forward-looking budget. It should talk about the next 4 or 5 years and not just 1 year. So it should encourage savings, which they have done yesterday by introducing Kisan Visa, because we need domestic savings. You know, if you see in the last 10 years, I think at least 7 or 8 years, bank deposits have grown the lowest.
Financial savings itself have fallen.
Savings have fallen. And so also bank credit. And we've never seen, normally it's 15 to 17%, this time it's 10 to 12%. And a few months ago it was in single digits. So savings, we need savings. So the budget has to also encourage capital spend. You see, today when you talk to entrepreneurs, they are saying it is easier for us to buy a company rather than start a company. It is easier for us to buy an asset, a factory, even if it is sick, even if it is excessive debt, because starting has so many issues. That is what we need to tackle. Why are we not encouraging people? Why are we not making easier for people to put up factories?
Actually, that was going to be the crux of my questions to you. How to push India up from that 130th rank to 50 in the ease of doing business. But let me just complete this budget issue. Do you also believe that if for some reason the budget doesn't live up to expectations, there could be a fairly devastating mood among first-time investors, or this big flood of investments, 15 billion that came into India this year?
I think again, like we expect so much from the government, we will all expect too much from the budget. It's a financial exercise.
P&L.
It's a P&L, government's balance sheet. And no other country has so much hype. You may be in England and there may be a budget day no one will talk about. It is only we, India, we look at it, and you people have made it so important, and so
we should be playing up the credit policy,
no,
right?
you want the first person to comment on the budget 1 minute after the finance minister gives his speech. It is all very unnatural.
So this is about the government, not about media.
You. So, I think we expect too much from the budget, but basically encourage savings, encourage investment. Ease of doing business is not going to be discussed in the budget. And you know the fuel subsidy has come down significantly. By having direct subsidy transfers, the leakages will stop. And so some of these issues the government is aware of. And budget will encourage investment. We need more capital investment. And I wish they come back with some incentives of investment allowance or some, in a period of time, a short period, if you put up a factory. What
are you expecting from Rajan on December 2nd? And according to you, is it right that he should be concentrating on inflation and kill that beast before, making any flip-flop?
Let the poor man do his job. Why is everyone advising him what to do? He's a grown-up, mature, intelligent adult. He knows his responsibility. And everyone is advising him, from government to bureaucrats to everyone, what he should do. Wait for a week, you'll know what he's going to do.
I'm really flattered by that reply, Mr. Parekh. But that's not how the government behaves. Even very recently we had statements from the government, from the finance minister, almost exhorting him. But to be very fair to the finance minister, he has not sounded cocky and he has not sounded like he's strong-arming. Do you think if it came to that, India would lose the credibility that it has gained with such
No,
difficulty?
in the sense that my personal view is that interest rates have to be linked with inflation. Inflation rates have certainly come down, both WPI, CPI. However, in order to justify a reasonable amount of interest rate cut, you must have continuity of 3, 4, 5 months. If you want the governor to keep changing interest rates on a periodic basis because some numbers have come down, he will take, without risk, he'll do 0.25%, which neither doesn't move the needle. So it is better to wait for a sustainability of reduction in inflation and then do a larger cut in interest rate, which helps the economy. Otherwise, it just disappears 0.25%. So my personal view is, although inflation has come down, food inflation has come down, but we talked a little earlier about food production is not high. is lower this year. So, you never know when that inflation, food inflation comes
So it's worth the wait for one more
It could be worth the wait, or because of the pressure, he may be able to do a 25, 50 basis points, but,
So your advice would be for the government not to strong-arm him, let him do his job.
Yeah, let him do his job.
Oh, that's a fair point. I really wish that stand.
I think Finance Minister did say that for higher growth, you need lower interest rates.
You believe that?
That is true. Yes, that is true. But then you have to, who has looked at agriculture? Why is no one concentrating on how to reduce food inflation? Why is no one looking at that? There should be a special group looking at how do we reduce food product. How do we reduce food inflation? And if you talk to the farmers, and if you talk to and do some study in rural areas, they say the cause of inflation in food is because of leakages, because of decay. The food grains are lying outside, and the lorries and the trucks do not come on time. They come months later from food corporation. And so the transportation takes time, then the state of transportation, the warehouses are not proper, the redistribution is not good. Why doesn't someone look at that? Why don't we look at the problem? Let's try and reduce food inflation, rather than tell the governor reduce interest rates because 2 months food inflation has come.
Now finally, for a question that perhaps you are best placed to answer. The NBFCs and the slew of rules that the Reserve Bank has brought to kind of graduate them into banks. How do you look at this entire process? You can become, an NBFC can become a payment bank. It can become a small bank, which really looks very attractive. Originally, the small bank, the draft rule said that they have to be only in geographically contiguous territory of one state. Now, even that geographical constraint is going to be removed. We understand. The governor said that himself. How do you look at this NBFC space? Do you think this is the way to go, to graduate them to banks of one form or the other?
The supervision of financial companies is a good idea in India. And NBFCs should not become like informal banks, shadow banking. The biggest problem China today is shadow banking. And every investor is worried about the size of shadow banking. So I think anticipating, seeing what's happening in China, we should not let ourselves get to that stage. And if an NBFC becomes a bank, it's regulated, it's supervised. And before doing that, the Reserve Bank is trying to have the same rules that are applicable to a bank. And one thing they did was they are not allowing NBFCs to raise public deposits, because that's a hue and cry. When an NBFC which takes retail deposit fails, it's answerable to the people, and common man gets hurt. But in this NBFC, they've said that they've given transition time over 3 years, 4 years. And even on NPAs, they're saying provision should be 90 days, not 180 days, capital adequacy. So I think we are moving in the right direction. And some of the NBFCs, you see, the NBFC is what as a regulator would worry about an NBFC, loans against shares. They give massive loans against promoters.
Capital market exposure.
But it's loans against shares. Secondly, they give loans against land, because we are not able to fund land. Banks and housing finance are prohibited. We are trying to tell the Reserve Bank, allow us to fund land, because land is the biggest component. Why do you want builders, developers to borrow money at 20 and 22% from NBFCs to buy land, and then 3 years later when they get approvals, they come to us? It increases the cost of the house. And it was done at a time, I remember when it was done, it was done when land prices became a bubble, when the RBI felt that there was a bubble in the real estate. There is no bubble now. There are thousands of flats available all across the country, and prices have come down whether you admit it or not. If you go with cash, every developer will bring down the prices if you are willing to book. So I think that is the other activity, land and financing.
Which they should. Okay, finally, for our the sponsors, the promoters of this function itself, they're going to be competition for you. It's going to be an IDFC bank.
That's why I resigned as chairman.
Okay, no, that we know that. When do you see them becoming an HDFC bank?
No, we had the advantage of many years of operation.
First mover, so to speak.
Yeah, it's tough. It takes time.